I'm Jack, and welcome back because today I'm going to give you guys my ranking of the entire Rocky franchise from worst to best now that we've had the release of Creed 3, directed by Michael B. Jordan, come out this past week. And it's time for me to give you guys my ranking of all 9 movies. That includes the 6 Rocky movies and the Creed trilogy. And now that I watched all these movies for the very first time over the last 2 weeks, this just became one of my all-time favorite franchises, where only one movie I wasn't really a fan of, but everything else I either liked it or really loved it. And I cannot wait to give you guys my ranking of the series. Let me know down below in the comment section, what's your ranking of the Rocky franchise? I'd love to know that down below. And with that said, let's get started. In last place is Rocky 5. Although this is by far the worst movie in the Rocky franchise, this is still better than most bad movies from most franchises, to where Rocky 5 is still a watchable movie even if it's not really all that good. Now, the idea of Rocky becoming a mentor after the events of Rocky 4, that is a good way to progress the character, just seeing him be the champion and now he wants to retire, and having him be a mentor to somebody is actually a good idea for the next step. There are good ideas sprinkled in this movie that could have made for a really great installment had they presented well, but sadly that is not what happened with Rocky 5. We had a movie where the characters were mean to one another, Paulie made decisions that don't quite make sense with his character from beforehand, and Rocky just spends less time with his family and more on Tommy Gunn, who wasn't really all that great of an antagonist. And adding to that too, just seeing that storyline, we know Tommy Gunn's not that great of a character. He's pretty much a jerk. That it's like, why are we supposed to root for this guy to be the next champion? Why? And Rocky did things that, once again, don't really add up with his character. Why would he spend less time with his family and more on this guy? And the villains here, over the top, not really that compelling. By far, my least favorite antagonist to come out of a Rocky movie. And what really soured this one for me is, for a movie of its runtime, it's by far the worst paced installment in the Rocky series, where I felt the runtime with this one, where earlier movies didn't feel it all. Even the ones afterwards are better paced than Rocky 5. And the fight sequences here were fine, but they just weren't as exciting. They didn't have that punch to it. And there was a big lack of exciting Rocky montages and score. And the last half of it is the best part about Rocky 5, but it had by far the weakest climax and final fight out of any Rocky movie. That, while the movie has some good ideas, Rocky 5 ended up being the bottom of the barrel in terms of the Rocky movies. In 8th place is Rocky 4. This is one of the most American movies of all time. We have the Russians as the villains. We have Ivan Drago as the opponent that Rocky must take down. They go to Russia, and Rocky pretty much puts an end to the Cold War by the end of it.
What I was trying to say is that if I can change,
Я думаю, что каждый тоже изменился сегодня.
and you can change,
Вы можете измениться.
everybody can change.
Каждый может измениться.
But in all seriousness, while this isn't an amazing movie in the Rocky series, it's still a very watchable, fun installment here. Sylvester Stallone, once again, is always really good as Rocky Balboa. This one is no different. We see him go up against Ivan Drago, played by Dolph Lundgren, who is one of the best villains to come out of the Rocky movies. And what I like here is it really does something really drastic for the franchise, and it affects everything moving forward, especially in the Creed trilogy with the death of Apollo Creed. I love Carl Weathers. I love him as the character, so having him die in the ring and be one of the reasons why Rocky must take down Ivan Drago, good reason. And it's just so heartbreaking when his death happens on the ring, and the last half of the movie is really satisfying. The montages, the songs, it's pure 80s, pure American movie. And so as just everything I like about Rocky movies, with the score, the montages, the boxing matches, the ending. But this movie does have some tonal clashes with one another, where on one hand, mature, death of Apollo Creed, Rocky having to deal with the threat he's never faced before. But it's also very goofy and it doubles down on the goofiness from Rocky 3, and I wanted a lot more time dealt with Rocky dealing with the aftermath of Apollo's death, because it happens, a few moments are dedicated to it, and then it just feels like we moved past it. I wanted more exploration of it, Rocky dealing with his mortality, that could he face Ivan Drago, and Rocky 4 is still a very good and a very fun movie that still has a lot of things I like about the franchise. So even if Rocky 4 isn't top tier Rocky, it's still a very good time. In 7th place is Rocky 3. This is the movie where the franchise starts to embrace the silliness of it all, with Mr. T as Clubber Lang, who's one of the funniest villains in the entire series, with his iconic one-liners.
What's your prediction for the fight, then?
Prediction?
Yes, prediction.
Pain.
And Rocky 3 is also the movie where we see Rocky and Apollo become friends with one another, and it is the highlight of this movie. I love how we watch them go from being opponents in the ring in Rocky and Rocky 2, and now they're really good friends, where Apollo is trying to help Rocky get back in shape, help him fight back against Mr. T's Clubber Lang. And their chemistry, their dynamic with each other, it is off the charts. They are so fun to watch. And once again, it also introduces us to Eye of the Tiger, which is iconic, memorable. The montages are inspiring and motivating, seeing Rocky face a defeat, and now he has to win that title back against Clubber Lang. And the boxing matches are good. We were introduced to Hulk Hogan in this movie before he became popular with wrestling. And this movie is pure cheese and pure fun. So even if it's very comedic and silly and not as dramatic, and have some of the more serious moments the way the first two Rocky movies did, and even the Creed trilogy did, this is still a really fun movie. So even if it's not one of the best movies in the Rocky series, this movie, just like I said with Rocky 4, it's a whole lot of fun, really solid, and I have a really great time watching Rocky 3. In 6th place is Creed 2. This and the next movie on the list are very interchangeable, but for now, this is where I stand after watching the entire franchise. Creed 2 is a very strong sequel to Creed. It's well directed, it is very inspiring and motivating, especially with the story that Adonis Creed goes on, where he goes toe-to-toe with Victor Drago, the son of Ivan Drago, who killed Apollo Creed back in the events of Rocky 4, and it elevates that movie, and how it ties things together with the stories of Rocky and Adonis Creed. Very compelling stuff. The montages here, some of the best in the entire franchise by far. The score by Ludwig Göransson is amazing. The boxing matches are very well shot. They are immersive. They're exciting. They are chaotic. And it really makes you feel the weight behind everything, where you are scared for what's going to happen to Adonis Creed in this movie. And there's such an emotional core to it that is heartbreaking, emotional, and it really hits me in the feels with the story that Adonis goes on, and seeing Rocky want to find a way to help Adonis try to stop the Dragos and to avoid the circumstances that he's going to put himself into, and how it ties everything together with Rocky 4 and the Dragos. And it even elevated Ivan Drago as a character, and giving both sides reasons why they're doing what they're doing. And it all came together in an epic finale that wraps up this movie on a really high note. And we see that Adonis Creed is someone that now has the love of his life, has a kid, and that he's now got something to lose. And what's he going to do to stay as champion and to fight back against Victor Drago? It is an epic movie where, even if it's not quite on par with that first Creed movie, this is still a very worthy follow-up to that. And this is the last time we've seen Sylvester Stallone as Rocky Balboa because of the controversy surrounding it. And this is a good final outing for him as a character if we never see him again, which I hope we do. But for where the movie left him off, this is a very satisfying resolution to the character of Rocky Balboa on the big screen. In 5th place is the new guy on the block, Creed 3. This is an impressive directorial debut from Michael B. Jordan. There's so much style, flair, a new aspect of filmmaking that's been brought into the Rocky movies with Creed 3. The fight sequences being inspired by anime, especially like Dragon Ball Z. Really awesome. It does something new with the series with that, and it's not going to work for everybody, but it definitely worked for me. It is immersive, it's vibrant, it is colorful, it's exciting, and it has some new things to offer here, and especially with the story where Adonis Creed is his own man now. He's now retired, he's a family man, and now his old friend Damian Anderson came back to the fold and wants a shot in the ring, and how that puts them both at odds with one another, the stuff that goes on, and how Adonis has to come out of retirement to stop his old friend. This movie from start to finish is a really compelling third chapter to the Creed trilogy. The performances all across the board are great, from Michael B. Jordan, Tessa Thompson, and even Jonathan Majors, who's continuing to be one of the greatest actors in Hollywood over the last couple of years, and I have no doubt his career is going to get even bigger in the future. And he's one of the best villains in the Rocky series as Damian Anderson. And the pacing is very good, even if it's not the best paced movie in the series. And the story with Adonis, retirement, we see him in a new phase of life, and see the movie shake things up for the Rocky formula, where we get to spend a lot of time with Damian, a lot of time with Adonis, and the things he has to go through, and what needs to be accomplished if Adonis is to stop Damian in the ring. And it's just epic. The score is not as good as in Creed 1 and Creed 2, and the montages are still very good, although not as good as the previous movies. But for what Creed 3 is, it's epic, it's awesome, it has a really cool third act that wraps up the entire movie on a strong note, and I am really excited to see that if they move forward with the Creed 4, I'm looking forward to seeing where they go next with Adonis Creed, because the Creed trilogy has been wrapped up on a really strong note because of what Michael B. Jordan and the crew were able to pull off with how great Creed 3 is. In fourth place is Rocky Balboa. This is another interchangeable area on the list with this and what's above it. But Rocky Balboa is one of the best written movies in the Rocky series, with the story of Rocky dealing with the death of Adrian, trying to spend time and keep his relationship intact with his son. He's now a small restaurant owner, and he's no longer a boxer anymore. And he gets the chance to come back into the ring when he is challenged by Mason Dixon. And what does he do with that? And it is, from start to finish, an incredible movie. It is one of the most underrated installments in the series, and it is one of the best written movies, with the performances and the monologues from Sylvester Stallone as Rocky.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
And it's a very inspiring and motivating tale of Rocky getting his next shot in the ring, where he gets one more fight left within him, because despite old age, there's always something left within Rocky. And the montages, top tier, the score, incredible, the songs, iconic, and the third act, one of the most satisfying resolutions to a Rocky movie. The last half had me in tears, with where it wraps things up with the boxing match, and even with where the movie ended. It is a really amazing movie. And although I wanted a lot more of Mason Dixon to feel him as a threat or as an opponent to the character of Rocky in the movie, this is without a doubt one of the best movies in the Rocky series. And for the 6 Rocky movies we have, it ended the Rocky 6 movie series on an extremely high note. Kicking off the top 3, we have Rocky 2. I love Rocky 2. It is an awesome sequel to Rocky, where it takes all the things I love about Rocky, brings it back here. Rocky's in a new phase of life, where after his match with Apollo, he wants to move on with his life. He gets married to Adrian, and the two of them have a really big focus together as a couple in the movie, and they have one of the best love stories in movies. This movie has all the things I love about Rocky. The montages are excellent, the songs are really good, the story is beautiful, and the final fight is some of the best I've seen in a Rocky movie. And we see Rocky just learn that even if he's trying to find a new job and go back to what his life was like before, he knows that his life pretty much is changed forever and that he needs to go back and get a rematch with Apollo Creed. And what happens there, really good. It's well paced, it's exciting, it's entertaining, it's fun, it's engaging. And even though Rocky 2 repeats some beats from the original Rocky and it's not quite as up to par in terms of story, I really enjoy the sequel a lot. It is interchangeable with Rocky Balboa, but I love Rocky 2, and Rocky 2's resolution elevates how much I already love that first Rocky. So, without question, in third place is Rocky 2. In second place is Creed. This is one of my favorite legacy sequels of all time. How it continues the story of Rocky Balboa while still being there to service the story of Adonis Creed is fabulous. Apollo Creed has passed away in the events of Rocky 4, and we find out that he's had another son that was born after his death with Adonis Creed. And Michael B. Jordan, I really like him as an actor, and he is fantastic as Adonis Creed. We see him go from being somebody who wants to make a name for himself all the way to where the movie ends up, where he goes into the match with Ricky Conlon, and his story, how he changes, how he gets better as a fighter in this movie. It is incredible. It is inspiring and motivating for everyone to know there's always the chance. You can always motivate yourself to work harder, train harder, and everything is going to pay off. And the story here, beautiful, one of the best in the series. It's my favorite sequel to come out in the post-Rocky landscape with the franchise. And the score by Ludwig Göransson, in terms of the Creed movies, at its best with Creed. It is memorable. The training montages are iconic. It's electric. It is exciting. It has a flair to it. And Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan are such an awesome collaborated duo with one another that it's always good to see them work together, because they always make something excellent when they're alongside one another. And the final fight, very good, especially the one take they have with the boxing matches. Really impressive how that was pulled off. And where the movie ends, it is a very satisfying start to the story of Adonis Creed that still gets really compelling as it goes along. But for the movie that started the story of Adonis Creed and continues the Rocky series with a legacy sequel, I love what it does with Rocky. I love what it does with Adonis. And as somebody that loves the Rocky franchise, this is easily my second favorite movie in the series. But coming in at first place is Rocky. This is one of my favorite sports movies ever made. It kicks off one of my favorite franchises with style on a really strong note. Sylvester Stallone making this not only the movie that kickstarted him to stardom, but also being an underdog story for him as an actor. Incredibly inspiring tale, just as the story of Rocky Balboa, where we see him, he collects money for loan sharks, and he's a small-time boxer in a club, and he's in the streets of Philadelphia just making his way by, and when he gets the offer to fight Apollo Creed in the ring, he does something with his life where it makes him wonder what's next for him. He starts to fall in love with Adrian. It is an incredible movie. It is a masterpiece. And just what the movie does, it's very much focused on the drama aspects of Rocky's life, just his day-to-day routine and him meeting Adrian as his relationship with her blooms and it starts, and how we see him get ready for the final fight in the movie with Apollo Creed in the ring. And the score, the opening title theme, is one of the most iconic scores of all time. It is just as memorable as the theme for Jurassic Park or Star Wars, Superman, Indiana Jones. It is amazing, and Rocky Balboa has just become one of my favorite characters in the history of movies. He is so rootable and so likable and lovable as a character, and he's just so amazing as a character, and I love everything about Rocky Balboa in this movie. We see him go from being someone who isn't very well known to the world yet. He's just a local guy in Philadelphia, and he gets a shot to win big with Apollo Creed and the story they go on. I just really love a lot of this movie. It's well directed, it's well paced. I love the drama side of things, where even if some of the movies after this focus more on the boxing, especially Rocky's 3 to 5, this movie is everything I love about these movies. We focus on character, focus on the story, and how it wraps everything up. It's inspiring, being an underdog tale for Rocky Balboa and Sylvester Stallone's career as an actor, and it kickstarted him to fame. Rocky is a masterpiece. Just like Creed, I absolutely adore this movie. It kicked off this franchise on a really strong note, one of the best franchise openers I've ever seen, and it only grew to be one of my favorite franchises of all time. And all of it started with Rocky, which ended up winning Best Picture at the Oscars that year it came out. And overall, I adore Rocky. I could talk about it for days. And in the end, I love this franchise, but in first place is Rocky. That's my ranking of the Rocky franchise from worst to best. What's your ranking of the movies? Let me know down below in the comment section. I'd love to know your ranking. Stay tuned for some upcoming videos I have planned very soon. Scream 6 is coming out this weekend, and I'm going to have a review for that coming up over the next couple of weeks. And 65 with Adam Driver, which I'm really curious to see. So please go stay tuned for all that fun stuff coming your way very soon. And don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below at the bottom of the screen and in the description below. So please go do that while you're at it. And thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button. And stay tuned for more.